have a story from the Bible and it's called The Unforgiving Servant. And it's all about being sorry and being forgiven. Now, Jesus had a good friend called Peter. And one day, Peter said to Jesus, "What if somebody does something wrong to me and they keep on doing something wrong? Should I forgive them? And if I forgive them, how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times?" And Jesus slowly shook his head and he said, "No, you should forgive them 70 times, 7 times. And then he went on to tell this story to explain what he meant. Once there was a king. This king was a good king. He looked after his people. He was kind and thoughtful, and he was very wise. One day, he'd been looking in his books to see what he'd been spending all of his money on. And he noticed that one of his servants had borrowed not just a little bit of money, but thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, and he hadn't paid it back. So the king called for the servant and said, "You owe me lots of money and you need to pay me back." And the servant said, "I'm really sorry, I don't have the money, Your Majesty." So the king said, "You will have to go to jail until you pay me back." And the servant went down on his knees and he begged the king and said, "Please, please don't send me to prison. I have a family to look after. Let me try and get the money for you. Give me more time." Now the king thought, and then he decided to forgive the servant. And he said, "It's okay. You don't need to pay me back the money. You can go now. It's all okay." And the servant said, "I'm really sorry, but thank you, Your Majesty." Well, the servant went outside and he met a second servant. And this second servant owed him just 1 coin, just 1 little coin. And the first servant said, "You must pay me back today. If you don't, you will go to jail." And the second servant said, "Please, please, I don't have the money. Please give me a little bit longer." But the first servant said, "No, off to jail with you." Now the king had heard what had been going on, and he was not pleased with the first servant. And he called him back, "Come back here, straight away, come and talk to me." And the king said, "I forgave you when you owed me thousands and thousands of pounds, but you did not forgive your friend for 1 little coin. So I have changed my mind. You must go to jail until you can pay me back all the money that you owe me. Off you go." And the servant was sent to jail. Now, Jesus explained to Peter that God forgives us every time we tell him that we are sorry. He will forgive us. And he wants us to treat our friends in the same way. Now, we thought about Scruff earlier, eating my chocolates. Do you think I ought to forgive him because he said sorry? Yes, I will forgive him when I can find him.